So one of the things that's going wrong, we're in the section on why it's not working, why it does work, why it doesn't work. A lot of people are taking the easy route by deploying what's known as responsive CSS, responsive cascading style sheets. They are writing their style sheet on their web desktop CMS for mobile, and they're ending up with something like that on the left-hand side for Oxfam, which scores 2 out of 5 at ready.mobi. And that is because by applying a cascading style sheet that uses responsive or media queries to your mobile presentation layer, you're serving, in this case, you see that little red bar on the right-hand side of the left-hand chart there, 1.3 megabytes of information being sent over the wire, over the air to the device. I can't see 1.3 megabytes of information on that left-hand side. I can only see about 30 or 40K, but it's still being sent to your device and ignored by your device because the media query that's being used in the responsive CSS is saying, whoa, this device can't handle that, I'll just ignore it. If you look at the little purple chart down there, that's 331 seconds to download that homepage for Oxfam if you're on 2.5G. Now, you'll all know that your 3G cuts in and out between 3G and 2.5G. Even on 3G there, 77 seconds to download that homepage. Who's going to wait for that? They're not. On Wi-Fi, it's about 3 seconds, which is still pretty bad if you're running an e-commerce proposition. Look on the right-hand side there, Marks and Spencer's. That page is 40K, 40 kilobytes of information. Doesn't look that much different, really, but we're not sending, or they're not sending over the air, all that useless information, all those 40 or 50 tracking tokens, the JavaScript files that aren't being used, etc., etc. By the way, the cost of downloading that Oxfam homepage is €11 if you go overseas. So users are unwilling to wait the 30 seconds that some mobile sites take for obvious reasons, and therefore you need to optimize. The other problem with the freebie approach, the responsive CSS, and I don't mean I'm not saying there's anything wrong with responsive design. Responsive design is precisely what you should do. But responsive CSS is the lazy way of producing a site, and you often end up with sites that look like this. That is supposedly mobile optimized, a responsive CSS applied to the desktop content management system, and you've got a whole bunch of holes on the page. And of course, if you have Flash on your website, then you're going to end up with a big cross in the middle. This is almost just as bad. There's a retail site, water butts, very important this time of year. Oh no, it's started raining again, hasn't it? You don't need one of those. When I took this screenshot, I was in the market for a water butt. I didn't buy one in the end because it redirected me to the desktop page when I actually came to checkout. So I spent all that time browsing, putting something in the basket, and then I had to go through an awful pinch and zoom type process, and that ruined it for me. Similar here, the Oxfam site, that wonderful 1.3 megabyte homepage that takes 77 seconds to download on mobile, then redirects when I actually want to make the donation to a desktop site. That's actually worse than not doing it, I think. This is very common. There's a Deloitte recruiting site, and that big blue bar, the loading bar on the right-hand side just shows you there that I did my screen grab before I could be bothered to wait for it to finish, redirecting me again to the desktop site to see if the actual job is available. So Google says that 40% of you would visit a competitor site, not only give up on the transaction, but actually go to a competitor's site if you have a disappointing mobile experience. And given that 4/5 of the sites in the UK are not presently optimized, that's a lot of disappointing customers who are obviously getting a great experience on the BBC, on Facebook, on Twitter, etc., but getting a rubbish experience on the brand's site. Now, I know you can't sell alcohol via a mobile phone, but these are some of the consumer FMCG type and alcohol brands, and you can see their mobile sites are not great. Here's one that's really good. We didn't do this, and I'm not putting into this presentation only the work we've done. This has been done by somebody else. I think this is a great site. Might be worth you donating to Save the Children Today. That's a great user experience, optimized for mobile all the way through, fast loading pages, and a great UX. And if you're going to build an app, make it look good, not like that one on the bottom left-hand corner. I really wouldn't bother doing it if you're going to end up with something that looks like that. Take advantage of these great technologies that mobile phones have. They are more powerful than the browser on the desktop. And if you incorporate it in an app as well, you can have a great deal of fun. So split your thought process, I think, into front end, into back end, and discovery. They are very different pieces. Most users will say that they find it very difficult to navigate on mobile sites right now, so you need to invest in that UX. As I said before, they will go somewhere else if they don't like what they see as well. So this is one we produced, actually, the British Gas mobile site. Start thinking about a completely different navigation structure. This is a concertina menu. If I want to know about the gas and electricity tariffs, I can click on the gas and electricity bar there. It opens up, and I get all the secondary and tertiary navigation within the home page, already preloaded, and still, in this particular case, under 70K. This is an example of a transcoding site. Now, transcoding is a great technology for getting the content onto existing content from a desktop site into a mobile site. But it's only actually a technology. You still need to apply the UX on top. You can see from this stack brick approach here that there's an awful lot of clicks and page turns that I need to go through to get to the actual product I want, which in this particular case was knitting. Now, very quickly, because I can't do this one justice, you do need to think also about that front-end development you do for apps and differentiate between native apps, hybrid apps, and web apps, as well as sites. And you had a discussion earlier on the pros and cons of apps and sites. You actually need to think of apps as consisting of three very different things. Web apps are, in fact, not apps. They're HTML5 sites written entirely in HTML5 with jQuery and CSS3, etc., etc. They look and feel like apps, and much of the content is online, some offline content, but they cannot control the device's APIs like the camera and other bits and pieces for augmented reality. You have to do that natively if you want to go that route. Native development is expensive because you have to do it for every platform. Sky released an app recently that only worked on 6 Android phones because they couldn't get it to work on the other 94 Android phones that there are. So there's native at one end, web app at the other, and my current favorite is hybrid. That's the Facebook app there. It's a hybrid app. It's using web technologies, using HTML5, JavaScript, etc., but serving it into a native wrapper. You can't do it all in web tech because you'll get bounced by iTunes. You've got to get that ratio of native code and web tech right. But it does also mean that you can then serve the content and the GUI, including updating the GUI over the air, serve it from your desktop CMS. And that's got to be the way to go, to have your app not required to be resubmitted to iTunes every time you want to change the GUI, add something into the navigation of the hierarchy, or to change the content.